So before the recording, Dan, you were telling me to grab a cop's gun in case one confronted me. You want to elaborate on that now that we're recording?
Yeah, it's simple because why bring your own weapon when they come with one? It's simple. When they lean in and go, do you know how fast you're going? You say, I'm going to send you 1,000 miles to hell right now, and take their gun.
As a reaction, I take his gun. Bonus action, turn off the safety.
Now you will have to wait for your next round to shoot him. So he's gonna to get a swing on you.
Yeah, but it's unarmed damage. How much can he possibly do through the window? That's difficult terrain.
What class level are you? You may only have like D4 health plus Constitution.
That's the thing about Dungeons and Dragons, is it assumes people can take a lot of stabs and fireballs, right? It's not, you wouldn't call it simulationist.
Yeah, and it's a real it kind of breaks down both at lower and higher levels, because it's like, okay, I could throw a house cat at you and you would die instantly if you're a level 1 commoner, or I guess a level 0 commoner. Conversely, I could get stabbed in the face with a knife 30 times as like a level 20 fighter and just keep walking.
Yeah, you have to suspend your disbelief. It's not supposed to be perfect. You're just trying to approximate a fantasy of the genre, you know? And that's what we're here to talk about, is storytelling, world building, art. You can tell we're serious writers who take our craft very seriously, and that's why we started off with that very real conversation that we intend to carry out legally. I want to say that's admissible in court, Your Honor.
Oh, I don't think this would go well for us. Austin, you may have been to law school, but I don't know about that one, buddy.
You don't want to state your intention, your mens rea, your actus reus, so you fulfill all of the elements of the crime.
I think I'm gonna go for the sovereign citizen tactic.
Ah, see, this is a high-level move. You've clearly classed into libertarian. They can't arrest you unless the flag has the correct fringe.
You know what? Here's what I do. I do still know some of the passwords for a major city's security system.
Yes. This is what I want on this podcast.
So I just need to like sort of leverage that. By the way, did you know that like if you lose a UPS or like a Federal Mail Service mail key, you have to pay for the entire area that uses those locks to be rekeyed.
Oh, how much is that? Is that like the millions or like thousands?
I imagine it changes depending on your area, but I think someplace like, I don't know, New York City, for example, that would be fucked.
Yeah, I assume you have to have some kind of liability insurance for that. I would say, speaking of me going to law school, you do have insurance in case you do a big oopsie. I think doctors also have big oopsie insurance. We need that for podcasting. What if I accidentally say a cartoon everyone likes is mid, and I get in so much trouble, and everyone yells at me? I need insurance to cover that sort of situation.
I believe that's called life insurance for your families for the end result.
Yeah, depending on the cartoon. Oh, boy. So what are we doing here? I haven't named the show 100% yet, but you know the naming convention. It's a one-syllable word and then a second word ending in UNK. So we'll get there eventually. Dice Funk, Word Funk, Game Crunk, Spew Punk, and this one here, a new one.
Can I make a suggestion, since this is sort of a interview-style show with the Dice Funk crew?
I absolutely insist you make a suggestion that is half of why you're here.
Crew Funk or Crunk.
No, you're well. I do like crew is the first one. I like crew. Let's work on that, because we already done funk. I want to do a different second word.
Gunk.
Crew Gunk. That's pretty good. That sounds like a great Pokemon as well. I know Quinn will appreciate that.
Yeah, we might have a sort of Pal World situation, and I don't think we have the 6 million sales to potentially dissuade Nintendo from taking action.
Yeah, let's do Pal World season. They can't stop us. My Sneakachu has a Glock. Roll for initiative. People would love that.
I'm a big Monster Tamer head. I think I've played literally every Monster Tamer game ever put out at this point, except Pal World and the latest Pokemons.
Yeah, you sent me a screenshot of your Steam library, and it was like, Creature Buddy 7. I was like, wow, you're deep in the paint, huh?
Yeah, I've got particular special interests, and sadly, Pokemon doesn't even really fulfill them anymore. So I've had to branch out into weirder environs over the last few years.
Yeah, I mean, we can definitely get there. I'm curious about some of that stuff, but to introduce what we're doing here, I am planning on doing a series of these type episodes released roughly every arc. I think is when we can also talk about the arc that just finished. I think that'll be fun. When Quinn and I kind of were throwing this ball back and forth during episode 0 of season 11, we mentioned like the Talking Dead after show of Walking Dead. I know other tabletop shows do something similar. Critical Role, I think, has, oh, I can't remember whatever they named theirs. I haven't watched it, to be completely honest, but I know they have a similar idea. So that can be fun. Also, I wanted to do something new with kind of the credits. I wanted to, for the 10th anniversary of the show, can you believe? Dice Funk has been around for almost 10 years. Moving things around on Patreon. The credit show is a lot of fun, but I think we've reached a point where it's time to shake that formula up. Everything I say tonight, completely open to suggestions and subject to change, but this is the pilot.
Yeah, you're going into tech bro mode. You want to disrupt the industry.
I really don't want to disrupt. I want everything to be as stable as possible. All I want to do is pretend to be a goblin on the internet, but...
So you prefer consistency is what you're saying, versus new ideas.
I would fucking hate a new idea. You know I'm a consistency head. I'm consistency pilled. That's going to be awesome if you listen to the latest Spewpunk where we went on for 45 of God's own minutes about a movie called Founders Day. God, that episode, I think that's a hot fire episode. If you ever want to get it on to Spewpunk, please, for $1, listen to that.
But yeah, so as you said, this is going to be I guess an interview, a breakdown, a dissection of, I guess, the characters, show arcs, etc. There is, I don't have an itinerary or a format. You just kind of messaged me and said, "Hey, do you want to do this?" So I'm kind of vamping. Feel free to interject at any time here. This is your brand, so you may want to stop me before I say something you regret.
Whoa, with the power of editing, I can stop any regretful statements. But I will say I chose you first because you seem to be the inspiration for a lot of this with your upcoming season 13. You've put a lot of work into the lore and setting, and I wanted to kind of build a ramp to getting to that point where we feel comfortable going deeper. And this is maybe even the first question we have here, like as far as your involvement with the show. You came on somewhat recently, and we kind of threw you in the deep end. So let's do the Joseph Tombrello opening question. This is a sponsored question from patron Joseph Tombrello. So how have you been finding Dice Funk so far compared to your vast tabletop experience? I know you've played many other games in many other styles, but podcasting is different than just shooting shit with your friends, eating Doritos.
I will say the biggest difference at its core is that I'm always hyper aware that there is a audience listening to this. And I don't think it took me very long to adapt from, hey, what am I going to do because it's in character versus what is actually interesting for the audience to see. I still flub here and there. But as you said, it's also like most of my experience is playing with other people and playing groups with groups very different than Dice Funk. Last season 10, Buford did a little wacky, silly thing with a decapitated head. And in the moment, I wasn't even thinking about, oh yeah, this could be something that that an audience might take umbrage with, let's say. And that's just because I'm not used to being in groups where that would ever even be an issue or concern. And then the moment you said it, I went, oh no, I've made a mistake for like 5 months. And then the episode came out and nobody cared.
Yeah, you can never guess. There's definitely been times where I was super worried about something and nobody cared, like you said. Or there's other times where I was like, this is not a big deal. We can all be adults here. And it was not okay, and it was a serious big deal. So even 10 years in, it's unpredictable. If you could easily gauge the audience's reaction, I would only do bangers, obviously. Well, why ever do something that isn't beloved? It's
well,
stupid
you have to. Well, you got to give them some like build up. You can't just always be nutting. You got to stroke for a little while too. You got to edge before you goon.
Okay, well, that's our first gem of wisdom. tonight. You can't only come. You have to go on the journey there first. So I'm glad we're all learning and growing. So the next question, this is going to be a Spirit Bear sponsored question. What brought you to Stranger, your season 11 character, your little pumpkin guy? Because you are also building your ramp, you and I together, into the pumpkin world.
Yeah, so part of it was me wanting to intentionally build a ramp to that season 13 a little bit. I know we've sort of talked off air sometimes about wanting to do a little bit more world building. So I figured I could get like a little bit backdoor in through Stranger. And also, I was just struggling to think of what do I do for a plant person. Ironically, I'm very built for your underwater side of this. I obsessively watched nature documentaries when I was little, and every time you're throwing them a puzzle and I'm listening to the drink cut, I immediately know what little sneaky thing you have watched in a documentary format and how it's going to kill them. But plants, I struggle with. I don't go outside much. I'm afraid of nature, and I'm allergic to most things. So I was like, okay, well, I have pumpkin people in this part of the setting that is technically a plant, and I can just kind of fold this in here to the overall world. So then I built out a character that went, okay, we have the main driving plot point is that we have a way to bring people back to life. And how do I incorporate that? I'm very concerned for season 13, what happens in this season and the next, because of everything that happened in season 9 greatly affects how I have to handle a plot, because I didn't listen to Dice Funk until season 9 when Quinn asked me if I wanted to, or not Quinn, rather, you had asked me if I wanted to come in for the season, and I don't know everything about the setting, so I now have to fully capture how is the season I'm going to run going to interact with this entire world being built up to here. So I wanted to loop that in with a character from the potentially future season.
Yeah, and you can never really be 100% sure of anything until you say it out loud. So this is a constant thing DMing is you'll think things are one way, and then someone will say something, and now they're a different way, and you just have to adapt. So it's pretty difficult. I'm not to whine about my job. Be like, oh, it's so hard to play pretend with my friends, but you do have to keep a lot of stuff in your head all at once. So. It's pretty difficult, but also it's rewarding when you can do it right. And as we often say on the show, you're always impressing us with your inventiveness and your creativity.
Yeah, I will say I think it is in a way a personal fault of mine that the moment I will say something and I recognize that Quinn or you will go, oh no, I hadn't thought of that. Even if it isn't in character for my character to want to do it, I now want to do that thing because it is the untraveled path.
Yeah, I think a lot of us on this program have a sort of oppositional defiance disorder, where when you give us the open door and the pit of spikes, we're like, I'm gonna jump in the pit of spikes. Fuck you! Start trying to stop me, just because we weren't cared for as children, I guess. we have problems. I'm gonna say next question from Bear Cloud Games. What have you so far thought of this arc? Because we just finished the first arc. I guess you could call it the Roman arc that just ended. So just 3 episodes, but it was a kind of a mystery in a way, and I think you were the first person to solve it. So you feeling smug? You feeling accomplished?
Yeah, but I will say I'm constantly throwing out paranoid schizophrenic theories all the time, so I will come up with 19 wrong ones before I land on the successful one. I did the moment Quinn brought out a bag of ashes assume that this is probably going to be a fake out. But then that falls away as we go through the arc and then comes back in later on. I'm always happy when I solve a puzzle, but I really enjoyed the ride getting to there. I liked Captain Dolph, Rip to the Great One. I guess technically he died however many years before, and then his memory coast then also died.
Yeah, I guess that's how that works. We have to kind of think about things on several different levels because there's like the reconstructed mind palaces as they're calling them, and then there's like the real world, and then there's the stuff happening underwater. So it's a bit of a complex season. That's kind of why, everyone's going to hear in Wet Teams soon, I went with a really simple premise. There are no I think there's one like named NPC I throw out in my first start because I'm just trying to keep it simple, stupid for everyone. But we did just finish recording the second arcs of both sides, and let me tell you, it's going some places. So things are going to open up in a big way soon.
Yeah, and as someone who has listened to all of those arcs already, they're great. I've loved every episode of them so far. I didn't expect those things to be inside of that thing, which will make sense when you listen to it. But yeah, that did happen, and I liked it.
That's a great endorsement. I do live in fear that I'll bring someone onto this interview show and I'll be like, "How you liking the recent art, Clora?" And she'll be like, "Bit shit, isn't it? Sucked a big one, huh?" That would be devastating. How would I live with that?
Wasn't enough riddles.
Yeah. Oh my God. They don't even know about the riddles yet. So I should say, I don't know if we've clarified, the drink cut that you referred to is the unedited files that each side will listen to, not the stuff we release to the public, because I remove all the audio of people taking big drinks, why they're called that. And I think that's a running joke from Spew Punk, the bonus show.
Yep, it's a well, now it seems like everyone on the podcast has kind of adapted to doing this. Originally, it was just a me thing, and then covertly, I got Sarah to start doing it during season 10 when she was like, "Oh yeah, I'm so excited to see the season finale in like 3 weeks." And I just messaged her, like, you could just listen to it now, right? All those files are there. You're in that Google Drive.
I feel bad though because some of this stuff is just so much better after I futzed with it. I mean, we could talk about this, just like how much editing affects things. Let's give this one to Zim. This is Zim's sponsored question. How surprised were you about the amount of editing and the special effects and stuff I do, like filters and music? Because I would be so fucking embarrassed if a drink cut got out. It's horrendous to me now.
Well, I think that might be more of a question for you because I'm not hearing the editing most of the time. I'll generally skim through an episode once it comes out, just to see how you like handle things, and I'm always impressed with it. I always think you do a good job, particularly cutting around my stammering and stopping and starting reset. Stop! I'm doing it right now. See, I'm fucking it up right now. You have to edit all this out. My ability to fuck up a sentence 9 times in a row and then do a moderately okay take that is still a little bit scuffed.
Yeah, I mean, I'll leave that in so the audience can hear. That's the kind of thing I may fix. But like a lot of it is just someone saying like, "Hold on," and then like 5-10 seconds of silence as they, put their cat in another room or flip through a book or something. And which I just don't think that's particularly interesting. But you all seem to, live through the drink cuts fine enough, I guess. It's more, the idea is mortifying to me.
Mm. It does help that I can just look at the Audacity files and see, okay, no one is talking here. I can just kind of click ahead a little bit. I know that's fine.
Yeah, I do like that everyone is invested enough that they want to hear the episodes right away. Something I know a lot of content creators, a lot of YouTubers, a lot of podcasters, and a thing that kind of bothers me is when it seems like someone doesn't care about their own content, because it's like, how do you expect other people to care if you don't care? Not to call anybody out specifically, but you see it here and there, and it's just like, if you're not going to listen to your own show, is it good enough to put out for other people?
Yeah, Mr. Beast, why don't you care?
You fucking asshole. That's very funny. This is an Austin question, but I'm going to say it's sponsored by Thane, Theyn. How do you feel about playing a druid on our show? So D&D 5th edition, balanced for a certain kind of experience. But, the classes interact interestingly with our format. For example, warlocks, much easier to play when you get a short rest every 5 seconds. How are you feeling about druid so far?
Druid also kind of has that because I just get a free health bar from, since I'm specifically playing a moon druid, which is all built around wild shape. It just means that anytime I get hurt, bam, I pop out another 60 hit points by turning into a snake or whatever. I've never actually played a druid before up to this point in
Whoa.
any version of D&D. And I think part of it is that they tend to get a little bit like typecast as what I would refer to as the forest Amish, where they have kind of decided here is the specific point in nature that nature always should be, and it should never change from there ever again. Like how would I put this? It hasn't super come up a lot, but what I think about is like animals just go extinct sometimes. Like an earthquake reroutes a river, and then a species dies out. That happens. Like nature has to adapt to the world. You can't just try to keep everything in perfect stasis. But there is like limits to that, right? You know, like if I go out and cut down every tree in a forest, that's not really a natural event or something slowly shaping a species. That's just obliteration. So I'm trying to thread at least a little bit of a line there, but it hasn't super come up. There's been a little bit with how Stranger doesn't care about a random cow getting eaten by 3 lions. Lions got to eat too. It's just circle of life.
Yeah, definitely. I often try to subvert the kind of traditional class expectations. You know, like I played a barbarian last season, and she wasn't like, you know, a blood drinking, tattooed psychopath or anything. Well, that's not the brightest bulb in the shed or whatever, but not quite what the book expects. So yeah, playing a druid is like not a crunchy hippie type definitely appeals to me. The thing I worry about sometimes is if I subvert every possible thing, then it suddenly, it bears no resemblance to the genre. I worry sometimes. I don't know if that's too much. I mean, you have strong opinions about genre, so I'll say Morgan Johnston time for a question here. How do you feel about some of the world building? Where are you at both in the current season and the stuff you're building as far as like sticking to genre? I know, for example, you're a big fan of like the Warhammer 40K universe. Mm-hmm. It's a bit crueler. Do you feel hemmed in by like Dice Funk's audience expectations of like found family and big hugs?
I do not. Yes, exactly. But it does change how I have to consider things. Like like I said before, I'm aware that I'm going to be working on something specifically for an audience. Like, so I'm in a way trying to tailor at least some of that towards like, the people that'll be listening to it. Like I think I originally sent you something when we were talking back and forth for season 13, and you're like, maybe that's a little bit too body horror.
Yeah, there were some fucked up things in the pumpkin chat, folks. I grossed myself out.
Granted, you then I think later on came back to the same point and was like, maybe I do this. But I then like kind of reeled some of that back a little bit. So I do feel like a need to reroute a bit. But that isn't also necessarily a bad thing, because a lot of like I'm not a writer. I'm an IT monkey. But I've heard writers say that restriction breeds like better stories. Whereas if you allow someone like a writer to get too self-indulgent and they'll do anything they want, you can get just absolute nonsense like OC stuff going on, which I desperately want to avoid, because it'll be 13 years of the show by then, and I don't want to fuck it up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty confident in your abilities you've displayed so far. I think also getting people's different perspectives is also really interesting. Like Laura doesn't really DM very similar to Quinn, and I assume I've seen your one shots at least, so I know you have also different tendencies, and that's just interesting to me. Even if I would do things differently, I'm like, that was a very generous amount of information for that 11 on that history roll, but I don't know. Let's see where it goes. So
yeah. Like something you'd said, you brought up my love of 40K. 40K is also a setting that can't even keep its own genre really straight. But you did notice that it is a very cruel setting. I would probably tend towards something like of a darker. You've spoken about your love of Mortal Kombat fatalities. I in general like it. I will always put jokes and comedic moments in settings, but I'm very willing to be like, you're afraid to kill a pet, I will kill your pet if you bring it into combat in D&D. I'd say that's the real clear dividing line between the two of us.
Yeah, I feel like I have no limits when it comes to human violence, but well, I try to make the art that I would like to see, if that makes sense. And it's like it bums me out to see an animal getting hurt usually, so it's just not something I like prioritize. I'd like to say that nothing's off the table though. Like if it was like, oh, this is clearly the best choice, like only a coward would avoid this, then maybe I'll dip into something a little outside my normal comfort zone. Oh, but I mean that's a good question. So Copperhead with a silent E on the end, so people know I'm not messing around. Rar says I love doing this with the names.
I really thought that was you adding on a bit there.
Nope, that's just the names. What do you think about comfort zones? I've been thinking about this season. We know we have Lillian as a character who's like an actor and like very boisterous and like big, and Sarah, by her own admission, sometimes nervous. And I feel like it's very brave to go outside your comfort zone like that. Are you someone who likes to challenge themselves, or are you just like, no, I'm a spooky little pumpkin man. This is perfect. This is easy.
I have a very specific comfort zone that I have a great difficulty leaving. Maya, my girlfriend, has dunked on me horrendously for this, and it's that I don't play characters who fuck.
Well, let's look at it. You played the lizard. He didn't fuck. You played Buford. He didn't fuck. And Stranger doesn't fuck. That all checks out so far.
Well, maybe I'll get Stranger to fuck. We'll see how this story goes, but there hasn't been an opportunity thus far. I don't know. I've never been particularly... That's like I can play a variety of things. I have the stuff I like, right? Like little weirdos tends to be my thing. I think Throg has been the most normal person thus far, and I do actually tend to play either weird or monstrous characters, more out there stuff, and then just a normal human with a class tied to it and some kind of sad or whatever backstory.
You and I have actually talked about this a bit because humans are somewhat rare on Dice Funk, even more so when player characters. So I think you have made a lot of good points about when everyone is weird, no one's weird. I don't know if you want to speak to that. We can attribute this question to Mo Rainbow Devil, the actual devil's advocate. Lucifer says, "New year, new sins." But what do you think about humans in D&D? Have we entered a new era where everyone is too out there and therefore no one feels special?
I think in like the zeitgeist of D&D itself, kind of, yes. I think Baldur's Gate actually avoids this for the most part. But in like the wider D&D community, as it's been kind of brought in, like more people have been brought into it through stuff like Critical Role and like secondhand like sources and media. People just see like, oh wow, a cool animal person, I want to play that. But then they don't really engage with, okay, what's like the story of these people, or what makes them different, or what like informs them. Because for me personally, if I'm playing a tiefling, I probably want to loop something in related to that infernal ancestry, or else why did I choose to play a tiefling? What makes them any different than a regular human with like a hair decoration and a tail and a monochromatically pitch shifted skin?
Oh, okay. You're going Team Tail. This is a hotly contested topic. Do tieflings have tails? People have died for this very question.
I think in current, I liked the 3.5 tiefling. This is also my annoyance with Wizards of the Coast as a company. I feel like they've kind of homogenized their settings a little bit. I like tieflings in 3.5 where you had a big table and it was like, what demonic trait do you have? Eyes all over your body, spikes coming out of your skin. You instead of sweat, there's oil. Make it weird. Don't make it just like a red guy.
Yeah, I mean, even the color of tieflings, I feel like has changed dramatically over the editions. They're now much more fantastical. But yeah, like you said, I think there's something to be said for playing your character in a context. This is like a much broader point that I've been thinking about recently. I'll actually loop in. This is a great name. That's the name. It was not just a weird laugh. Yeah, who says basically when you make a character in a vacuum, right, and then try to add them into a story. Does this sound familiar? Quinn and I talking about Has Been Hotel and Spewpunk. It can sometimes feel like, why is anyone here? Why are they doing what they're doing? if you know the characters exist without context at first, and then you have to add it in later, it can feel very strange. This is honestly just a materialist, like Marxist lens to see the world, right? Is that no one exists without context, no one exists without their environment. But I know a lot of people who make D&D characters out that way. They close their eyes and they see Jeff, the orc fighter, and it's like, they don't know where Jeff's from. They don't know, who his parents were. They don't know what his material circumstances were. That's something I think about a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. So everyone, D&D's at the end of the day a game, and if you're enjoying the game with your friends, then there's no problem. That type of gameplay is generally not the type of stuff in settings that I tend to like, or that the groups I've in the past tend to play with, because we're a bunch of lorehead 40k crunch nerds who will pick something obscure from Rogue Trader in 1985 and then use that to build out our entire group from there. I think in like a private game, it can be a perfectly fun and justifiable way, and you can even find who that character is going on, like throughout the story. Like you fill in some things from there, but sometimes maybe that doesn't happen at all. Whatever, as long as you're having fun, that's fine. But in like, I guess, a piece of media I'm trying to consume, that's like the last thing I would want to deal with, because it's like, well, why? I would end up disliking that character because I would have no idea why they're there, and they would feel kind of like a nail sticking up on a board. Like, it's very noticeable, and it's like a very different vibe than the rest of them. That's just me personally, though.
Yeah, I've often had a thought along the lines of, why is your character here? If they don't want to be here, play someone who does want to be here.
Yeah.
When listening to other podcasts or, sometimes seeing in-person games, it's like, if you knew we were playing D&D, why did you make someone who doesn't want to be a D&D character? Which is kind of mean, I guess, but it can be frustrating. Let's see, a lepidopteran sitting in the corner and humming tunelessly to comfort themselves. To comfort himself, basically sponsors my next question, which is, what do you think about tailoring the game to the players? You mentioned you have quote-unquote crunch nerds you play with. I think in earlier seasons of Dice Hunk, there would be times when I would say something, the lore of this god and this history, and the players would hit a fat blunt and be like, I wasn't listening, and I couldn't really do the kind of things I think you and I can do, where you are paying close attention and asking questions and be like, oh, awesome, but if the river flows east, won't the silt deposit in the floodplain? It's like, fuck, now I have to think about that.
Yeah, what is the alluvium being done here? What materials can be gathered from it? This will be the most I'm probably going to have to course correct a bit. Well, maybe not. Quinn has been in my games before, and you will almost certainly be in my group as well, since you need to know what's going on in the season I will be GMing. So it's really up to whoever else will be in their group, how much I will need to in turn adjust for them. I would probably try to pick someone who I have to adjust the least for, to try to keep everyone on board together. Like I said, these are very different groups than what I'm used to. For example, I told Sarah in an offline conversation when she was asking, like, oh, hey, do you have any suggestions for how I can roleplay maybe a little bit differently or better going forward? And I told her, look, I'm from groups where if I'm talking, my friends will just go, shut up, idiot, and then throw a grenade at whatever NPC I was speaking to, because they've determined that they're a heretic or whatever, or we need to save this person who's been kidnapped by killing them with a grenade. So don't feel free to scream me down or whatever. Really, I think I'm coming out of a traumatic experience, and I don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah, you're like, here's a charming story about my friend group. Everyone in the audience, it sounds like you have a fucked up friendship. It sounds like you need therapy. So we're revealing too much about ourselves. But also the opposite happens. So like on the show, we've had like player on player violence where the players were in on it and they knew and it was fine. That's what people wanted. And I've seen offline games where an argument like in character that should have been fun and silly, it was like obvious bad real life vibes, and like that can suck. Like we're I think, we're all friends here to a certain extent. Some of us are, have histories going back 10, 15 years or whatever. Some of us are just, online friends. But I don't think we rarely, I would say, have ever had anything that could be construed as like genuinely bad vibes on air. I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Mhm. I'd imagine part of that is, like you said, where it's a lot of like online relationships. I think some of the worst like knockdown argument scream fights I've seen between games are people that have been interacting way too much, way too regularly, who have allowed like some sort of disagreement or bad vibes between them to reach into said game. But we're all told, so we got things to do during the day. So the days of like where Quinn and I would play D&D for 10 straight hours don't happen anymore.
Yo, wow, we were all so young once, huh? Can you imagine playing for 10 hours? We played for 2 hours.
I was in high school when you started Dice Funk.
Oh my lord, that's a whole other question. Yeah, this is Quill's question. Dan, how did you get here? Why are you so small?
Well, genetics is the answer to the second part of that. I was supposed to be 6'6", Austin.
Holy
they
shit.
thought I was going to be that because I was this tall in 5th grade.
Yeah, I didn't even mean to make fun of your size there. That was what's the age gap here? I think Laura and no, Sketch is the oldest, right? I think Sketch is like late 30s, and you're what, mid 20s?
I think he turned 40 this last year. Yes, I am 27. It all started back in the day, as with everything else I think you have indicated, on Channel Awesome.
Oh, no.
I was watching media put out by Quinn, Nick, that whole associated group. I then watched Quinn's D&D streams. Through there, I ended up getting, I don't even really remember what precipitated that, latching on like a remora to her and joining in some of the actual D&D games. And the rest is history. Eventually, Quinn did her Kill Frosty one-shot, and from there I got into Shardpoint, and from there I got into Dragon Quest, and here we are now.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Quinn needs to stop befriending fans of her content, because eventually we end up muscling our way into her life in a big way. She has to have a stronger barrier there. She needs more boundaries. Elder Dog with the next question for you. So we talked about the setting, we talked about Stranger a little bit, but we didn't take it all the way back to the beginning. Where did you start making this character? Like when I talked about Hialeah in the first episode, I said it started with like the tool proficiency. Is there something like that for you, or is it just that you're just such a fan of pumpkins, which I know is also true?
I think it's hard to remember the inciting pieces at this point because it has been, I'm gonna say, like 6-7 months at this point.
Oh my.
I think I was looking at what other people were deciding to do class-wise then, and I was going through the class list going, what's going to be interesting here, and how do I shove a pumpkin into this?
How do I shove a pumpkin into this is a great way to approach every situation in life.
Exactly. And I think I ended up going over to my like miniatures and like all the stuff I've painted, and I was like, what would I want to play? Which one of these would I want to play as a character, right? And then I looked at all these like animal monsters I had, all the art I've saved over the years that are like, pumpkin spider, or pumpkin snake, etc. And was like, well, why don't I just play a druid that can turn into these so I can just always have a miniature that I can associate with it at any given time. And I think it just kind of went from there. And then as we were sort of deciding like, okay, what's everyone's like a personality going to be like? What's their general stance on bringing someone back in general? That's when I started to go, okay, well, I guess I could be like the dissenting voice here. And then I sort of built some lore and concerns and plot points around that.
Yeah. This is going to be a question sponsored by Sir Alistair Octopus says, form a union. Is there any more of that lore you want to reveal at this time? I know some of it needs to come up organically, but you obviously have a lot in mind, and we're, I think, at the halfway point of recording, not release, but recording. Is there anything you're like, oh, I can just let this cat out of the bag. It's fine if people know about the bone fields or whatever.
It's funny. I think there's a picture of a mega dungeon I wrote years ago that I shared in that group chat with something called the Bone Fields on it.
Yeah, I think that must have stuck in my head. You were telling me about a lot of really cursed things you did, including the campaign that took place in a single giant dungeon, and I did have, I think, a nightmare or two about that.
Yeah, that campaign never occurred, but I was in the process of like developing it. I love mega dungeons. That's just I think they're very difficult to actually play in, but I love the idea of just a massive book that just contains the entire setting. I'm a big setting guy. I guess as for lore, it's difficult to say. I have thoughts on everything. You said I've been developing this for years at this point, which is true, but I think it's actually a little bit further than you realize. I'm adapting both like parts of a setting that I ran for the recorded D&D game Quinn was in years ago. Don't look it up; it's terrible garbage. Don't. I was young then. I made many mistakes. And that was precipitated by a cool orc I fought in Shadow of Mordor.
Oh yeah, I think you did mention that before. That's so funny. But inspiration can come from the weirdest place. There's a character in the next Dry arc that is just a joke from me and Quinn about a Magic the Gathering YouTuber. No one else is gonna get it. That's fine. But sometimes shit like that just happens.
Perfect. But yeah, as for I guess lore to reveal, I don't know specifically because it's like again, I'm a big lore head, but I know like just saying things out of context isn't necessarily interesting for people. What I guess I can say is that I think in season 13, a big like undercurring, maybe not plot point, but reoccurring topic coming up is how these people don't really have like an economy or like a goods culture that resembles like ours in a way, because he's a pumpkin person stranger, for example. He doesn't have to eat food, so anything that they grow is just exports, but what they care about are things like bodies and limbs and resources of that nature, because that can be used to grow different and more powerful people.
Yeah, I'm really curious how that shakes out and how much is going to be revealed here. You never know, how you're going to change your mind on things as well. That's a curse I super have, is that I'll be like, oh, this is definitely going to lead to this, and then a day before it happens, I'm like, nope, thought of something else. Throw all that in the fucking garbage. Have you locked yourself into anything now? Are you have you gone too far?
So I'm always like I said earlier, I think restrictions are important. So I'm trying to be hyper aware of my own like how much of this is an interesting choice versus me trying to just push something I think is cool that may not translate well into the story. I have changed a few of like who I think the quote unquote big bad of this is going to be. And of course, everything is fluid. You guys could just accidentally kill this person within 10 minutes. And then I go, oh, you know what? No, he was never the real villain all along or whatever. But I have definitely changed what it's going to be over time. And like I said, I do need to see how the Well of Resurrection shakes out. Is that going to still be a thing at the end of the season? I have no idea. And then it hasn't really come up in this season, but I don't know. And you can cut this out potentially if you don't want it in here. But season 12 is going to potentially involve the ramifications of Gladys's actions with duplicating god items, which is also information I will need to determine how this story goes.
Yeah, no, I'm going to leave that in because I mean that's kind of the premise of season 12 is the Dragon Quest stuff from season 9, but you also don't need to know that. Oh, that's a great question. We'll say this one sponsored by Kitty, the cursed existence of financial instability, foe. How does it feel not having listened to a bunch of the seasons and having to kind of play in the space? Because I know some people have said like, oh, all the seasons are supposed to be self-contained, and yet you mention the stuff from like season 9, and I think players like you and Leon who have huge blind spots but still play in the space, I think are speak to the method we're using, but I'm also open to feedback.
I think playing is actually not a difficulty here. It's honestly, I think the biggest difficulty for me is the fact that I have been in the Discord seeing people talk about like how this is connected to previous seasons, and I'll see things like the words conduit or martyr thrown out, and I'm going, I don't really understand what this is, or like there'll be references to events in the timeline, and I'll go, okay, so I think there are no gods, ergo I can't include anything related to that specifically, although some stuff that's happened now in this current season allows me to play with that sort of vibe anyway.
Yeah, the audience is about to meet a paladin in a couple of days as of this recording. So a lot of things are still possible. But I mean, playing with a Discord is such a valuable resource and such a terrible psychic burden. Let's say it's sponsored by Extellaris. Here's the question: how has your mental health dealt with everyone commenting on every decision you make?
Fine. Fine, really.
I ripped your grandma, but I'm built different.
Yeah. I will say I did see, I think, one negative comment on Twitter at one point that was like, you completely misunderstood the situation. But then I realized, oh, that's not healthy. I decided to simply stop.
Well, you're stronger than I am, because I've definitely, no matter how terrible the feedback, how completely off base, I'm like, damn, if they thought it though, I must have done something wrong.
I will say I've talked to some other people in the group about this. I do want them to be able to give out negative feedback. I'm honestly considering leaving the Discord during 13 just so people don't feel like, pressured to sugarcoat their thoughts, because I want them to be able to go, man, I don't like this character Grimbus Guddles at all. Fuck him.
Oh my god, Grimbus Grumble's army. I'm number one Grimble Grumble stan. I will defend you. I've studied the blade.
I'm no perfect writer. I have my own faults and things that people will obviously like take umbrage or dislike. I know I have a probably very different vibe and taste than a lot of the people that have been on Dice Funk up to this point, and people should absolutely feel free to be like, man, this shit's whack. When's Austin's side coming in?
Yeah, I mean, here's another question, sponsored by It's a New Year. So Concept is conceptualizing new concept puns. What have you found, like, is the biggest difference in your taste versus other people? Something that comes to mind immediately for me was when Mari and I had an argument about isekai, the anime genre, on air. Because I obviously acknowledge that there are good examples of every genre, but I find it such a crutch for bad writing that I just was like, I'm just not open to that on the show, which you could argue is really close-minded. So I'm open to you saying, like, Austin, here's where you're wrong about a genre or an approach.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I go back and forth on stuff like found family media a lot. And I think it's more that if I see like a ton of something, I do have an inherent contrarian streak. But just as found family comes up a lot, mostly because I have personally seen people have their found family, and that family sucks dick.
Damn, spicy take.
I guess my stance tends to be, I have a more cynical or depressing view of people. I don't think people are even who like espouse or believe in things that we consider good, when push comes to shove, always actually follow those beliefs. More often than not, I think we're animals just trying to survive. And at the end of the day, a lot of like, oh, this is so nice, cutesy stuff just doesn't sit with me, and I just don't like it unless I'm specifically looking for that, I guess.
Yeah, Quinn and I are reading Cormac McCarthy for Spew Punk right now. This is the bonus show I've mentioned a couple times. And one of my favorite writers of all time, and a lot of his work is just we're just apes covered in blood and shit, mm-hmm. and we're just like sprinting towards the grave, just fucking everything in our path. And it's like, I can't really do that for our particular audience, but I do have that. I have that dog in me. I have access to that dog if something calls for it.
Yeah.
But
I think a good example, again, just going back to stuff I'm the most familiar with, is 40K, because in the 40K that we see in like the setting right now is after 10,000 years of neglect and not being managed by the God Emperor of mankind. It is not what he wanted, right? The inciting event is the universe is so fucked up. I am going to try everything I can to fix it, and that's not going to be a nice process. Like the comparison I make is the Emperor would love Star Trek. He wants his world to be in that setting, but that is not the setting he's in. And I like when people have to go, what fucked up choice am I going to make to try to achieve what is ostensibly a good goal, and how far are you willing to go to do that? Like where do your morals lie? Do you care about what you do? If it's if are you going to pick the good thing to do even if the effects are worse, or are you going to do the bad thing to try to get a better outcome?
Yeah, I'm of a very similar mind to you there. That's my favorite thing about these kind of choice-based games is, asking people questions, then pushing them on them as like, what about if this happens? What about this circumstance, this consequence? And I see a lot of people's approach to D&D or other tabletop games, which is fine. It's just like, I want the numbers to go up or down, which is fine. I will say next question, sponsored by Eardrum Espresso. Are there other games you would want to play for Dice Funk? I know you and I have talked about this off mic before, but D&D isn't necessarily the most conducive to what we're doing, and I know you have strong feelings about other games.
Yeah, I honestly think World of Darkness would be a pretty good fit for Dice Funk. It's not like incredibly rules crunching. It's more about storytelling. And I think just mechanically and like stylistically it works very well. I would love to do a 40k season, or like I think a Rogue Trader season would be better, but I think it's so different than what what the general seasons are of the show are, that it would be like the Demon Core melting people's skin off at that point.
I mean, I'd be curious. Maybe we do a mini campaign or something. I think I've spoken with Conrad about World of Darkness or Vampire the Masquerade. Are those the same? Is that a Venn diagram?
World of Darkness is like the overall setting, and then Masquerade is like a sub game in it. You got Vampire the Masquerade, Changeling the Dreaming, I think, Mage of the Ascension, etc.
Yeah. I've also recorded something recently with Conrad that hasn't been released yet, so I'm excited about that. It's a little tease for you if you've made it this far. Next question, sponsored by C.A. Little. I didn't have one. I just hoping I'd get there when I got there, That's how it is sometimes.
Yeah, let me ask you, what settings would you like to do? Like everything in Dice Funk has been in a your own built up setting, right? If you had to pick a different setting to transplant in, be it like a standard D&D setting like Dark Sun or what have you, or a different game system setting, what would you do?
Oh, wow. That's interesting. Because, we started in kind of canon normal D&D, and my idea was to kind of pick it apart season by season, killing or ruining all the tropes and stuff, partially for my own amusement and also because I don't know how much I can expect listeners or players to be familiar with it. Like maybe they know, Tiamat, but I can't expect them to know like every obscure little thing. So moving from D&D was kind of deliberate, but I never had an endpoint I was moving to. Maybe this was the wrong approach. Who knows? But what I kind of settled on was trying to let the players decide. So in earlier seasons, I'd be like, here are the factions. They're fighting for these different worlds. Who do you side with? And it was just the players I happen to have, were mostly just like, I don't know, I'm scared. Please don't yell at me. As opposed to you, where you're like, let me get my PowerPoint out. Here's my dossier. If you'll turn to, page C, subsection 42, here's my breakdown. So I guess my approach so far has been trying to let the players create the world, culminating in season 9 when I literally was just like, please create the world. Like, I'm not implying it anymore. But if I had to start all over, I mean, I think some of our most fertile creativity has been in the sci-fi seasons. I don't know if we all like sci-fi more or something, but that might be a good starting point because it feels like we are all passionate about that more than we are about like pretty standard sword and sorcery.
So no like specific setting you want to play in the space of, then just general like sci-fi type stuff.
I'm thinking, so if we're talking about D&D, obviously Planescape is my favorite because I like the afterlife stuff. I like the mythology stuff. If we're talking about like other licenses outside of D&D, like, I'm a big Dark Souls fan, something like that. That'd be harder to get. Like,
yeah, you could play with the horrible Dark Souls, I think D&D splat, which isn't even written correctly.
Yeah, I'm trying to. There's a game I played with my old roommate Noah. It was called Kingdom Death. Have you ever heard of that?
Yes, I've seen many of the miniatures.
Yeah, they're really cool looking, but my experience with that game was no role playing, only combat, which is fine. That's not like that's nothing wrong with that, but it's not really what I want out of the experience. But like the aesthetics of that, and visual aesthetics are hard to translate into the audio only format. But like yeah, horror is kind of one of my favorite things. I'm really big into like you said, fucked up fatality compilations. So it's I don't know. It's difficult because you can't show someone the monster, but there are a lot of horror podcasts. That's an entire genre, and I think I think that's also something I'm interested in is trying to scare people. I also like making people cry and laugh, but as long as I'm getting some reaction, I want you to feel something from the podcast.
You want a reaction. It doesn't matter necessarily what that reaction is.
Yeah, I think I want my art to touch you, and I try it in a couple of different ways. But at the end of the day, as long as something works, it's not like I'm super hyper focused on only doing one. But horror is something that has only been lightly touched on here and there because it's hard to maintain with the mostly jokey kind of vibe of the show. So
I will say that is actually something I've been thinking a lot about for season 13. How much do I want to go into horror in the actual season itself versus the more jokey stuff? Like, how do I want to treat NPCs? Like, is there going to be, for example, like a town just full of these people? Well, how do they interact with each other? How threatening are they going to be off the bat? Like, are you gonna meet Mr. Babadook and he's running the general store? What am I exactly doing here? That's something I spent a lot of time thinking about.
Yeah, it's hard to know because I think even if you settle on an answer, you never know when Quinn's going to come in and be like, and I grabbed the Babadook by the nipple. And then it's like, well, okay, well, I guess that's kind of disarming my whole thing unless I respond very violently or something. I never know what to do about that. So good luck, I guess.
Well, I think apparently the answer is call her a bad girl.
Oh my God. I can't believe how much this has wormed its way into every program. you really need to be up to date on Quinn's whole vibe in order to enjoy the program.
Yeah, her newest special interest.
Yeah. I mean, we all have something going on. Christman slept through the last 3 months. What year is it? This is a question inspired by the sound of my own voice ringing in my ears. How has the speed of the show been hitting you? Podcasting is something where people get bored really easily. They turn it off if there's any dead air. I literally just saw on Podbean when I used to upload the MP3s. It's like, hey, we can use AI to take out the dead air. First of all, I was like, fuck you, eat my ass. Second of all, I make you all sprint for 2 hours when you're on my show. There's no time to breathe. There's no time to think. You can hear how fast I'm talking. Am I killing you?
No, in fact, honestly, I'm always looking at the clock going, oh no, it's going to be ending soon. I have to move this along. Or I want to get to the I think I kind of fucked up in one of the recent seasons where, or not seasons, episodes, where I looked at the clock and went, oh, it's like 8:30. I think we have to like get to this next plot point, right? So I kind of cut. I was like, okay, I think that's enough for this conversation. Let's get to like the vibe check and get in there. And then Quinn was like, all right, that's the end of the episode. I went, oh no, I could have played around more.
Yeah. I know exactly what you mean too, because I had the same thought. That's something it's really hard to do because I don't want our audience to get bored, but I also want our players to be able to do everything they want to do. I mean, you've done a full season now with Beaufort. Did you feel like you got everything done there? Or, like, at the end of the day, was that like, okay, I hit all the points?
I think there's stuff that could have been touched on more. I'm very, very much like my urge is always to editorialize, right? Where I go, oh, I could have said this way better as like now that I've had time to think about it more. Like I probably would have done one or two things different with the epilogue. I think I referenced it when somebody asked me in the Discord, like, oh, would Beaufort visit Cece because he might be functionally immortal? And I went, oh, I think honestly he would have probably been forced to Sisyphean like build the Dyson sphere. for the rest of his however long life, which is something I would have liked to say on air. That I think, like, for example, I don't think Buford really gets a happy ending no matter what. I don't think he's capable of it. I think he's too broken of a character. And I think he would have been happy for a time being once he got out of jail and saw his family. But if he's outliving them, what happens when they die? He probably just goes back to being a bad person.
Wow. Yeah, it's hard. I guess, let's say this is the next question. Nephestidia, the queer sheep. Oh, shit. Wait, it's not Twitter? Is this not Twitter? Do you think that the double DM season is like gives you an interesting like contrast to like the other side, or do you find it like, oh, there's not enough episodes? Because I'm trying to find the balance right now, and we don't know how long season 11 is going to go. Like, if do both Quinn and I get 4 arcs, 5 arcs? We don't know if the people are going to team up, if they're going to be enemies. Do you are you looking forward to next season when it's going to be just one DM? How are you feeling about this whole experiment so far?
I do think it's interesting. It does the biggest difficulty with it is, like you said, it cuts down on the amount of like episodes per character, right? So you do kind of have to make sure you're hitting those plot points. I don't think it's really been an issue so far, but I know in season 10, it did at times feel like, oh, we're not really interacting with NPCs we see regularly, because we would leave the base and go out on a mission. And then we would come back to the Rezubian, and we're not necessarily seeing any of those NPCs we saw on that mission again during any of our future arcs. That's not exactly happening here, though, because we're all centralized around the gig, and the audience will learn where the wet group is centralized around. So that issue is assuaged. I like it. I would also like to be in a regular season to see how that plays out for Dice One, because I haven't actually experienced that since I was only in Dragon Quest, and that was sort of very condensed, short plot line.
Yeah. And on a similar note, this is sponsored by Marine Science Guy. What do you think about Dice Funk's approach to NPCs, where it's kind of like every character you speak to is a special, unique, special birthday boy with like a backstory and fan art and stuff, as opposed to, at least when I've played in home games or whatever, it's like, yeah, this is Boblin the Goblin. He has a sword for you. You'll never see him again. Don't worry about it. Or, here's 15 people in a room. They're all humans. They're named, Jefferson. Like, it's just like there's a different like amount of attention and preciousness where it's like, we need another scene with that flump or I'm going to die.
I like it, but I think it's also a result of the like kind of condensed nature of the show, because it's like it's not like we're ever going, oh, let's go to like the blacksmith and pick something up, and then you meet the blacksmith whose name is Barry, and then the GM has to come up with something on the spot, and maybe Barry becomes a beloved character because of whatever improv he had to come up with. I have thought about this for season 13. I kind of want a little bit of that improv there, but I do also obsessively write characters for every scenario I might need. So I literally have a character to explain the interior decorations of this fucking setting.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, you joke about Barry. Obviously, that's literally what happened last season. Barry was improv and then became a character. In my first wet arc, there weren't any named NPCs going in. The thing I was like is, Quinn just introduced, like 5 people, Mox and the Roman and Harper, and I was like, okay, we're gonna have no named NPCs in mind. And then I think just I was having a background characters talk, and they just like said a name as part of a joke, and then that person has to show up now, so it's just like it gets away from you. And that's good. Those usually turn out to be beloved. So it'd be one thing if anytime I did that, the audience was like, fuck off. We don't give a shit about this guy. You clearly didn't craft him lovingly. That would be a different situation.
Mm-hmm. I will say that's the interesting part in like watching Discord react to the show. How they'll latch onto something that has been in the show for maybe like 5 seconds, and then it expands out in the quote unquote fandom, I guess. in their reaction to it, or they'll like. I guess going back to the amount of conduit talk I saw for season 10 where people were theorizing or going, where is this on the timeline? And we are 6 months ahead and I'm going, nah, none of that's happening.
Yeah, I mean, certain people want that stuff to come back, and it's not that I'm against it necessarily. It's just waiting for the right time and the right crew of people who want to do it or are interested. No one has come to me in the last couple of seasons and said, "Can I do a conduit?" And that to me is a pretty clear signal that we're not ready for that yet.
Can I do a conduit, Austin?
Yeah, in fact, now Stranger needs one for the next arc. I hope you're ready.
If I understand what a conduit is, I think I'm the last kind of player you want me to give a conduit to. Never give me power over something. A use like that, I will crowbar it into every possible use case.
It's funny because I was kind of thinking that this show would be like a series of interviews about the players and their characters. Maybe we'll go back and do, earlier seasons, or we'll talk about Throg or something. But that feels like something people are definitely going to ask, which is, what would Stranger's conduit be? And if you're new to the show, conduits are just like a single word that your character kind of represents and has some kind of power over or with. It varies because it's a very open-ended kind of thing. But imagine if your character was, a superhero, what would their power be? Or if they were like a JoJo character, what would their stand be? And I've basically let people have whatever they want.
I was going to say, while we were talking about conduits, that Mutants and Masterminds or superhero season might also be an interesting thing to touch on in the future. I'm sure you have it in your 9,000 entry Google Doc of future seasons at some point. I wouldn't really, I guess, know for Stranger. I had an idea for like what I guess Throgs would be, or I guess maybe that was a martyr. I don't know. They're all very confusing to me.
Yeah, martyr for fans is like a kind of a plot twist in a season where it's like a variation on that. It's it's very similar.
Maybe growth is probably the one word summary you could put there, because I mean he grew out of something. He grows other things. He grows himself into other forms and things like that. That'd probably be the closest thing I could think of off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's a pretty good one. I could definitely see, narrative and mechanical ideas coming out of that. I'm sure we're going to get there. We could even ask Faith and Valor wants to thank all the creators here. You bring me joy. Thank you for that. Do you have any other ideas, either for characters or, settings or seasons coming up? Because we have pretty clearly locked down dragons and pumpkins, but, do you also have a list? I have a big list.
Characters in general, yes. I desperately have wanted to play a clown on Dice Funk.
Oh my god! before the clowns of season 10, or
before the clowns of season 10. So originally, way in the past, Joe was kind of going around your back a little bit, going, "Hey, you want to play at season 9?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And then season 9 came out, and I was not in it, so I was like, "Oh, I guess that didn't happen."
I mean, we were always talking about getting you on different projects. That's an ongoing conversation.
Mm-hmm. But I wanted to play like a lawful neutral clown with no sense of humor, but violently adheres to the laws of comedy. Like,
oh my gosh. That seems like a difficult thing to hold yourself to, because you're having to juggle your character sheet, the ongoing story, and then also this entire other art. That's a lot. That's hard mode.
As for settings and stuff like it, I do have like my own personal settings that I think would be fun. I had when I brought up World of Darkness, I ran a short powered by Apocalypse cryptid focused game. I think it was called Monster of the Week, where I was like, okay, you're on a fictional like island off the coast of New Jersey that has like cryptid like implications there. Your fishmen, your et cetera, called Crescent Cove, and you're all like local people that gets embroiled in this like the conspiracies going on there. I think that like something locked down and small like that can be fun, set in like kind of a real world type setting. I love goblins. I have a lot of goblins. I think our goblin season could be fun. Maybe more specifically something focused on like the underdogs of D&D. The people that are getting stepped on in level 1 before you go on to fight Gorgak the Destroyer or whatever.
I literally did have that as an idea. It's kind of on the back burner because I'm cannibalizing some of the ideas for a different season. But yeah, in all level 1 like minion season, Maybe we can even fold this into the question. Brent, still every episode of Dice Funk Goatly. What do you think about villain seasons or evil campaigns, as it were? Because that minion idea I had was mostly slapstick comedy, right? These are like goofs. They're not doing genocide or slavery. But do you have any interest in like an actual evil campaign or only comedically evil?
I think it can be difficult to really do a villain campaign. Um, Especially if everyone's goals align in like the party, I think it can work. If they are potentially like there's inter-party conflict that can move from like, oh, I love these bad bitches to, man, all these guys kind of suck and they hate each other. um I would say in a way, kind of like if you play like, again, bringing back 40k Rogue Trader, that in a way is kind of a villain campaign because you are like rich people with a ship where that is crewed by your slaves, doing only things to benefit yourself and get like, profit and stuff. So in a way, that's kind of like a pseudo villain there, but that's just part and parcel for 40k. So that's the kind of stuff I'm like, yeah, this is fine, and I can enjoy it, but I'm not sure necessarily how an audience would react. But that's also not really a full like, okay, we're gonna bring out the end of the world or whatever.
Yeah, I haven't cracked it quite. How to make it engaging and without like basically pulling your punch. Where it's like, oh, we're villains. What do we want to do? Stop a worse villain. But that's like I guess the Suicide Squad answer, right? Is to actually make them heroes, which it's fine. I liked the James Gunn Suicide Squad, but I don't know if that's worth putting our own spin on if we're just kind of going through the motions there.
What if it's a found villain family? Like they're truly evil. They are only out for themselves, but man, they love each other. Like like, oh, hey Grommash, you having problems like torturing these innocent people to get information? Let me give you a hand here. Let me help you out.
We can do it. I mean, Grommash,
you gotta put your hips into the swing.
Gorbo Gutter Slump and was it Ground Blacks the Destroyer? I think we're building up quite a rogues gallery here. Mm-hmm. That actually reminds me. Level 8 Cleric Caroline just swaddles herself in the quilt biome for a while. Blessings from the god of coziness to you all. Really, to using the whole word count there. Congratulations. What do you think about writing villains? This is something that really torments me personally. And you're doing this, spooky pumpkin season. Do you have a hard time getting into character as like a villainous person and like defending their unreasonable position? That's kind of the hardest part of the show for me.
Not massively, because it depends on like what you're writing, right? Because you can absolutely just write a guy that's like, oh, I hate the world and want to destroy them, and in that case it's like, well, they don't need to defend their position, they don't care what you think. Or if you're, it also can be a case of like, if you're writing a villain who is very old and has been doing something for a long time, you can try to convince them, and maybe depending on how it goes, you could, depending if it's like narratively satisfying. But they could also be like, I've been doing this for 1,000 years. You're not gonna stray me from your path because you rolled high and said, but I'm a little guy. Well, little guys get crushed all the time. I've been doing it for decades.
I kind of did that with Yaush, where in season 10, where everyone's like, "You're playing stupid, you're stupid," and I was like, "Oh, you convinced me, I'll give it up." Nah, psych, idiot. And then he kind of did.
I will say, this is also me trying to react to how Dice Funk is a different game than I used to. I thought that's what you wanted.
You wanted me to talk him out of his plans?
Yeah, I thought this was like, because I'm trying to realign myself from the much more we're just gonna kill him plans of my old D&D groups. Going, okay, everyone here has the potential, like there is nothing ontologically evil about these people. Ergo, I'm going to try to convince them.
I mean, yeah, the thing I try to say is that there isn't a thing I want. I don't go into a session hoping you all go down my path, because there isn't a path. At this point, the show has become so much about talking with people and being reasonable that I think it actually would be more exciting if you were just like, actually fuck this guy and his whole family and his whole bloodline. It'd be intense, but that at this point, that would be the subversion in a way.
All right, got it. I'm gonna start killing people.
I mean, I kind of like that about Buford. I mean, the torture and stuff. Like you were goal driven. You were on your way to stuff. Something I'm hoping to dig into with these interviews is like writing advice and writing styles. You know, there's not only one way to do things, but a lot of my personal approach is you want your character to have a goal and be taking steps to accomplish that. It sounds obvious and simple, but you'd be surprised how many people where it's like, okay, what does Gronk the fighter want? And you're like, I don't know. I don't know. I just roll dice, and I mean that's fine, I guess, for some games. But I think you should know what your guy wants.
Yeah, and that's also like I guess part of the problem when I think we're touching on it before. Why is this character here? If they don't have a goal or something in mind, I did thread the needle a bit on Buford where he didn't have a specific goal, but he had something to keep him here, there, and on task, which meant that whatever you put in front of him, he was going to try to do it.
Yeah, and I think everyone's about to meet Laura's character, who I'm very excited about, who on paper I would say doesn't have a specific goal in a way that, you know, if I was in a creative writing class, I'd be like, what does your character want? But like it's not even necessary because her character is so passionate about other, like just things generally that it totally works. So I'm excited to talk to her about that in the future sometime because
I guess it's more that like your character has to care about things in the show or the setting to make them feel like they're a part of it.
Yeah, do they have to care, or why should I care? It's
Yeah.
the simplest way to summarize that one. But yeah, I mean, this has been a lot of fun. So we're over an hour here, which is what I was thinking about for the length of these interviews. But I'm curious what people think, if they like this format, if there's anything I could change. I'm still hoping to tool with the format to improve it and stuff. But this is kind of what I was thinking, and I want these to come out mainly once a month. You know, at the end of the arcs. I will say the schedule for Dice Funk is written in stone every Sunday until the Earth explodes. And Spewpunk is whenever I can corner Quinn and she can't escape. But this one is like roughly monthly end of arc stuff. But is there anything else you wanted to hit while we're here? Because you can always come back. If there's more things that are revealed about Stranger, and you're like, I'm finally ready to discuss his seeds. I've been waiting so long.
You're joking, but I have thought about things related to that because I needed to understand how they're. I referenced it in the latest episode that the people will be hearing in, I don't know, 3 months, something like that. But I've spent way too. I researched how long it takes someone to grow one of those 1,000-pound pumpkins. I guess the one thing I would ask, I guess, to the audience, as we will approach season 13, you referenced wanting to do like a more in-depth discussion of the setting. What do people want to specifically know about the setting? Like, are there questions you might have about it that you'd want answered with just at a basic level? Because I can write up everything about, here are the factions, the groups or whatever, but I'm not going to be able to think of every single question. The George R. R. Martin joke of what was the King of Gondor's tax policy, something like that. I'm not going to be able to I'm not going to think of every possible question to answer, of course.
Yeah, I mean, my current plan and everything is subject to change. I feel like I don't need to say that every time. It's just the ass covering reflex I have. But the current plan is episode 0 for seasons 12 and 13, where we'll discuss Dragon World and Pumpkin World more because I have those more fleshed out, and you have yours more fleshed out, obviously. So as you'll both have a better idea, and we'll have more questions as we get closer to there, hopefully. And if people like them, we should do them for later seasons, 14, 15. If people think that sucks and it's a waste of everyone's time, we also aren't obligated. We can always jettison that one. That's the power of the internet.
So Austin, are you ready to commit to any future seasons here? We've got pumpkin season, we've got the underwater and plant season here. When's underground season? When's the Dirt Boys coming up?
The Dirty Boys. I did have an idea for a subterranean season because I do love mushrooms, and I was thinking about stuff like that. But we did touch on that in season 4 because that was an economic metaphor. It's literally the underclass live underground. Not the most revolutionary idea, But
all right, I'm gonna say here, folks, capitalism is not the enemy in season 13. It needs to stop. It's happening too often.
I wonder if you did the math, is the capitalism the villain the majority of the time? I bet it's like 50-50, but sometimes it's not intentional. Season 10 I thought was Star Trek. I thought money was obsolete until all you got weird about ice cream.
Not my fault. Blame that on Quinn.
Yeah, I'm like I said, I have a Google Drive full of ideas for things. I think I know what 15 is. I don't know about 14. It might be pirates. Maybe I shouldn't say that out loud. But Quinn and I got very excited about pirates after watching One Piece. And you did see Captain Dolph of the Judgment Day in this first arc.
I'll crack out the pirate I originally wrote for Quinn's online One Piece role playing forum.
Ooh, that could be exciting. I was thinking about if we did a pirate season, we might do a double DM where one side are pirates and the other side is the Navy, like going after them. Not set in stone now. It's just an idea I had. And then 15, I think we're back to space. So that's very loose at this point. 14 could be anything. If we had something Quinn says in the next dry arc, you hear us on air start workshopping and world building a little bit. I don't know when that one will peak back in, but even in this arc on the pirate ship with Captain Dolph, it was mentioned that there's a sea in Arabella that's like alive and needs to be placated with like sacrifice, and like that's where the pirates are gonna be. That's the pirate season.
Yeah, and I guess on the topic of that ocean, that and stuff that comes up in the later episodes has had me rewrite parts of season 13 already, for the better, I think, and it's made it more interesting.
Yeah, that's the damn thing. Sometimes I've absolutely had to axe characters and ideas and stuff because someone just tweeted it out in another episode. But luckily, I'm never short of ideas. And yeah, I think you're gonna have more pumpkin lore than you know what to do with. I think if your messages are any indication, you're gonna end up leaving a whole other season's worth of stuff on the table to come back to. We might need to do pumpkin redux.
Absolutely. I've realized I'm going to have to cut a lot of plot lines and quests just for time because it'll be a double DM season, and that is not enough to hit every single thing I want to do.
Yeah, I mean, like it's still 2 years away. There's always a conversation we can have. It's like, do we want Pumpkin to be a single DM for the first time ever? Dan, do you want the whole season? And then
maybe, that would be so stressful that everything's riding only on me.
Yeah, I mean it's rough, who knows what could happen. That's the thing I said about this season. It's like Quinn. Sometimes you feel overwhelmed by the world, and it's I don't know if it's 1 week you're gonna be like, Austin, I can't do this anymore, and then we never find out what happens to Stranger and Hylia and Lillian. It's going well so far, but that's when you put your story and your art in someone's hands. When you collaborate like this, that's literally just a risk you run. It's impossible to get around.
Yeah, you never know if I'm in the middle of season 13 gonna get like 100 tickets in one day, have an aneurysm, and explode.
Yeah, okay. I was thinking that it would be more of like a New Jersey swamp gas situation than just spontaneous.
I'm gonna get hit by a European driving by the wrong side of the road in 2026 during the World Cup.
Well, let's hope not. I don't know where I was in this list. I think I said Lumentus, but this is kind of how the thing I'm thinking going is threading the credits through here. We had a lot of fun talking about my bussy in the old credits situation, but let me know how you think about this style. Open to any suggestions. I think we're going to wrap up here. Any other thoughts you want to get out there?
How's your day going, Austin? You do anything new today?
I've been editing the thing I recorded with Conrad. I don't know when it's going to come out. There's another podcast on the horizon I think people might be surprised and delighted by. We're working on like one-shots and miniseries and stuff. I've been trying to bully is the word that comes to mind. Skitch into doing more shard points and stuff like that. I don't know if those are only between seasons or if we're going to have like a bigger string of them, but I'm trying to get that stuff kind of done. I will say one of the biggest things about double DM seasons is there are twice as many episodes recorded, and so when people need to be very ill or go somewhere, it's been much less of a 5-alarm emergency. You weren't around here in earlier seasons where we recorded and then released like 2 days later, and it was like if someone couldn't make it. It was very bad for me. Someone who has promised publicly not to miss an episode release. I realize it's not the end of the world if I did, but at this point, I feel like it's something to be proud of, and I don't want to ruin it for no reason.
Oh, then let me ask you this, Austin. Unrelated to everything else, what do I have to do to start getting you to paint miniatures? Well, how do I loop this into your worldview? Or how do I break into Spewpunk when you're talking about MTG so I can talk about the latest 40k battle scroll updates?
I think getting me to paint miniatures is probably on the level of like getting me to become a golfer or something, to take up violin. It's such a monumental task.
All right, step one, I'm gonna get you to play Blood Bowl. That'll, I think, be the first thing.
Oh man, I have so little free. I haven't played a video game since Lies of P, whenever that came out, and I love video games. And I still haven't had time to start a whole new art form is unimaginable to me, and I've never been good at like art in that sense. I'm a writer, not a visual artist, but it's not that I'm against them. I used to build Gundam models. So
Same skill set. Same skill set is involved there.
As far as Spewpunk, you are invited anytime. I don't know if we need to sneak you in past Quinn. I don't know if if she's like guarding the door, but as far as I'm concerned, you're invited anytime.
Wonderful. I'm sure. I'm sure you'll probably have me on once Henry Cavill's 40k show comes out. That feels just like it needs to occur at that point.
Yeah, it would be rude to leave you out at that. That would signal something. You'd be like, "What did I do?"
do you know the fear I have for that show deep down? It is terrifying for me.
I'm trying to think of an equivalent. I guess it'd be like if they made a Fire Emblem show or something, and they'd be like, "No, they fucked up Hector. This sucks." He would never say that.
Because this could go so many ways. It could cover so many things, and it could be so bad. And I have never seen a fandom hate its parent company more than 40k and Warhammer fans, for good reasons. But it is truly a cyclical, abusive relationship.
Yeah, I don't know all the ins and outs of Games Workshop, but it doesn't seem like a great situation. And I encourage you, if you ever want to come on to Spewpunk, I'll listen. I'll just ask you questions just like this. I think it's fun to interview people. It's been a while since I did it. Do people know I used to be a journalist? That was my job for years. That was literally what I did. And it's been a while, but yeah, it's fun to me. So I hope you enjoyed my questions.
I did, Austin. I hope you have a good night. I hope Bjork keeps doing her little silly rambunctious tasks. I hope Joa has a good night, and I hope Quinn doesn't do anything that makes her a bad girl. Reaching out to catch the sun, to hold it in hands, longing for something strong, to hide a weakness soon. The light may disappear. Nothing is meant to last. Yeah, we believe a world searching for happiness.
Bienvenidos, it's Austin again. Hope you enjoyed the pilot episode. I thought it went pretty well. It seemed fun. We had some great questions. It's been a while since I interviewed anyone. That was all off the dome. You could probably tell, but I didn't have any questions written down. I was just kind of doing the thing as it happened to me. I was hoping to get through more of the names as I worked through those questions. Maybe in the future I'll do multiple names per sponsored question. Still working out the kinks. We'll see how it happens. But I basically ordered this list of names from highest contribution down. So starting with Joseph Timbrello, of course, and I want to finish out the list that I didn't get to when I was hanging out with Dan. So I'm going to do that real quick. We'll see how this works. Ropun the Gathering, Lost Caverns of Austin's Bussy. Right, just chef's kiss right off the top. We're back to the Bussy ways. That's why I love you all. Rio de Costa Silva. A werewolf has enough free time and money to get in one more war game, right? Composting Queen, Arn Frank, E. Corin, Rasmus, David Lasers, Kyoko Puffs, Danny Werner, I'm a Responsible Adult, Dustin Darkwater, Matt Collier, Brett declares all of February to be bedtime. See you next month. Damn, that does sound good, though. Criterion is back again with a wacky name. Here it goes. Banana. Heuristic Badger, Toshiro Cruz, New Year's new self, has successfully enacted biological warfare on the old year's old self. Wow, that's a lot of name. Jess Buckley, Generica, Someone Who Knows, AJ Lorenz, B. Bimbo, Otra Persona, Bad Hat Ben, Chris Sheeb, M. Skunk ID, downloading new personality for the new year. This year's personality is Templeton the Rat. Quinn Larios, I know her. Ben Marsden, Joa, don't know her. Eventual Eden, Polite Crow, done with this, open the bin, you know there's nuggets. Oh my gosh. Had to take a moment to appreciate the development in the Polite Crow saga. Three Owls in a Trench Coat, Possum Kingdom Refugee, Big Time Burger, now featuring the Wendy McDonald action figure with detachable wings in every kid's meal. Too soon. Miles and Danny love Dice Funk forever. Jamie, aka the Warburg, Jen, Bleeker, Matt Lackett wishes everybody a happy new year, lots of love, self-care, and podcasting. Jasper Black Lives Matter, Cyber Lady Z, Ed, Dr. Goatman, Francois V, the sequel to Cujo, Geff the Mongoose, keeping up with the devilment on weekends, Kevin Dobbins, Pumpkin Spice itself, 6D9, Lady Ziki, Morgan Rapp, Penal House, O2, the Norwegian pencil case that gets mistaken for a Dane. Can you hear my brain exploding? Podcasting is hard by yourself. There's a reason I usually have someone else in the call with me, so when I reach the end of my breath, I can lean back in my chair and go, oh my gosh, that was quite a sentence, and then someone else can talk about butts or something. And Dress Day Touring, Alolan Chris, K. Wren, M. Gallagher marathon training to season 8. Good luck. Chainsaws and Unicorns, Pippin, brother of Mary, father of Sam. Our family has a certain naming habit. If Austin hasn't found D&D, what kind of cult do you think he'd be running? It'd be a nice one. It'd be totally harmless. The Shy Biscuit, Cult of Zavala, Jacob Coles, Aubrey, mine accursed teats, Riot, Joe Arias, listen to my girlfriend talk about magic lore on the Vorthos cast, Jake Logsden, Stephen, Colin Raiden McCrae, an Irish Envy who will be extremely glad to see the back of January. Isaac has been too busy working on his bachelor's and hitting things to change his name. Eric Ogren actually really enjoys when Austin talks about magic because he plays it too. Amerk, the Amerk on Twitter, creator of Fractal Realms and other audio-visual adventures. Juan Nunez Jimenez. Need another break here? Gonna take a big drink of my water. You'll never know because I have edited it out. I'm back after a nice big sip of water. Ira Winter, Andre, if you have Spotify Premium, check out RVRB.1. Amanda from Schmorda, parentheses, insert sex joke here. Flood my gullet with the drink cut. Code Sculptor 1, Emmanuel Orlando Matthias. Kirby commands thee to pay Lauren Ragalicious or else. Back payments from the distant past of Season 7. Joe Turner, Jay Sterling, Lime, Gareth Tomlinson is making tea. Would you like some? Ephemeral Biscuit, Cookie Wyvern, Vinjost, Gams. Bill Webb walked up to the Illithid stand and said to the man running the stand, hey, bum, got any brains? Man, my other Patreonies are going to be really confused. God, can you imagine? Fraser McVean, Ben Husky. Is that a play on my name or is that just a weird coincidence? Kyle, the Cuddly Kobold, is almost done his book. Wow. Congratulations. Mark Melkert, don't worry, you can't pronounce that. Shout out to my beloved brother Anton, who's such a kind soul. Tara is giving money to say hi to all the cats. That's why I'm doing this. If I just left these ones out, Bjork wouldn't know, and it'd be too sad to contemplate. Egon finally remembered to change his Patreon name. Benedict Holland, aspiring plague doctor. V, Philip Mitchell, Squidcap the Mind Goblin, Goblin Mines. Penguins have no natural predators on land and are not afraid of humans. Can you tell I've come back from another drink? Anne Crean, Chat GPT. Wow, I didn't know that could do that. Trucker Fucker, I hardly knew her. Mickelvain, spirit of enjoying great Cosminon commissions at a reasonable rate. Get your own today. I second that. Eric Anderson is Thaliamon on Twitch. Duncan, the Space Fighters are now at exhaustion level 3 due to the newest member. Uh-oh. That's the credits for February. We did it. We're almost done. Gonna need a bigger sink. Never lucky, always sucky. Go Spot Master. Aaron Rules 380. Kieran Gore. What does the Tiger Dog say? Just a po' boy with a po' family. Joseph Mortensen. Richard Meredith, Thomas Galvin, Bella the Worm. My current verbal stem is Little Kisses. Thank you for all you do every week. You're the best and are loved. Steven, you may have to battle Austin's pussy more than once to win it. Okay, I didn't know the rules. Kyle Hill, Nemo, the Milky Way's kidney punching champion. Conduit of potato chips. Sekhmet, the wolf cat bean counter. The Peroni, Moomba, Ben Straub, B. Then the Dense Pile of Bones, DH, the Strixhaven GM. Game has been on hiatus since the last name change. Oop. Ellie, Ruby Rockatansky, Errant Sagacity, Darkwolf, Garth, Science, Matthew Griffin, Excalibur, Prospering Foxgirl, IRL, Stephanie K. Whoop. Steffi K, Amberlyn, Fastest Cat in the West, Juan, Paco's Lucha RPG is ramping up to its inevitable kaiju climax, Ada Lure, Sam, Roscoe 101, Titus, Conduit of Wombology, Poston, New Year, New Blood, Fountain, Korgsky, Blood Fountain. Woo! Eleros will gladly pay extra for a dry team Baby Geniuses spew punk. Maybe someday. There's a great comedic potential untapped there. Chief Beef Thief, Daz's Lost Casserole, it's a casserole and an owl. Nicholas B. McDonald, Sirs, Bloop, Simon Lee, Conduit of Conduit of Chungus, Bearer of Dinkus, Minion of John Con, The Thing Your Cat is Staring At in the Corner of the Room, Rain in the Patreon, Demon totaled a car and came out richer. Congratulations, that's cool. Tell me how that works. I would like to do that. I lost my place because I got so excited about vehicular profit. Steven Martinez, Master Zemnahort, Conduit of Misspelled It, but it kind of works, so I'll roll with it forever. If Stranger casts bark skin on himself, is that akin to blackface for a treant? Oh my gosh, don't let Dan know about this. He'll come up with an answer and we'll all feel bad. Hi, I'm Vi. Fuck you, pay me, I say as I hand you $5 every month for no monetary return from you. I hope it's entertainment return. I do my best. Alistair Lutton, Wishbone is gay, Spaghetto, Dragon Nexus, Blackstone Morgan, Doro, Phoenix, Toot Hill Sterling, a gambling pig says Happy New Year to you and happy birthday to me. P.S. Austin's pussy. Lauren, Lomo, and Morgan say give Lomo money at paypal.me/rugalicious. Lomo's Ludes and Nudes are very rugalicious. Fair Majesty. Empress Quintillion Galaxian. Smiles Blue. Agent Hedgepickle. Aaron Norgard. Counterspell. I hardly knew her. Squishy Fishy. Arabella. Hardly knew her. Francis Arsenal. Modified Matthew. Runaway Drakina. Dice Funk Banyan. That's Sarah, I believe. Or someone pretending to be Sarah for some plot. Evil Fish People, Zoltar, the Viking Death Metal Caterpillar, Conduit of Retribution, Bones, Pocket Sundial, Kyle, Skunk Fruct, Mice King Mike, Antonio, Conduit of Snacks, Kel Tolls for the Pi A. Rob Yerg, Cyril Saldana, Prophet of RN Jesus, I'm Not a Robot, Beep Boop Boop Beep, Kaniku Fan, Callum, wishing warm snuggles and cozy cuddles for anyone who desires them. Turner, Mahogany, Jayish Wizard, the Wizard of J, Chris and Kipper the cat are cold, but the soup is plentiful, the bread is warm. Chris Walling, a vaccinated otter, hoping to see its otter friends, a good Brent, B-Ray Echo, Femboy Connoisseur. You might be in her DMs, but Quinn is in mine screaming at me. We are not the same. Kate Escape, Midlife Stasis, Conduit of Inevitability, Spaghetti-O Moment, Welcome to Halloween 2, Dinner with Friends. It's time to Dorian, Bro Jimble, Mikael Minkler wishes everyone a happy discount chocolate day, Joe Hinchcliffe, Spookmaster General, Megafan number 1, Tim Lutton, Andy Harkins, Dawning Frost, Medical Dingus, S. Kearney, Sus Squirrel, Keller Automat, Cass, formerly known as Emma, Cyretha rises from the grave of unemployment to be a phantasmal patron once again. Julian was expecting Hylia to be more Ratchet, like Ratchet and Clank, or like Ratchet, like the. Never mind. My audience wouldn't use the term like that. Mix Morganic, make come, not war. Wow, walked right into that one. Lauren Cates, Conduit of Bonding with his kids by playing Minecraft. Congratulations. Counterfeit, Rob Dakin. Sean Lyons Burke is back in the credits, this time with a husband. Also congratulations. God King Wolfram, uncontrollably guzzling Pepsi. Haster the Cabot, Garrett K, the Precursor Killer, Cotton Shizno Yam, Anna, Conduit of Procrastination, Daniel Marsden, Victoria Melito, Conduit of Quietness, Majin, Social Distance Warrior, Dora Esta Gargatorum, Eleanor recommends Onimai, I'm Now Your Sister, Jewman Jack, Salad Child, Elderly Goose, Fielding Old in 2024, Jew Ergen, Indie Monster Vinevik, Faerd wishes you all a happy new year and hopes his new job works out. I think they're trying to help with the pronunciation there. Sorry about that. Aki Savalainen, Florian H, Amuleto Della Oso, Matt Burgles, Shyness the Demi-Lich, formerly known as Josh, Ziphosaurus, Indigo Van Dane, Jess Neely, Toby Gleason Stack, Michael Ariel Badger Release, Dashon the Rage Monster, Harrison Andrew, Luki Uki Pookie Jade, The Cult of Gorfanax, Dylan Irilin, The Dog Relaxing with Board Games, and Christopher Charlow. Wow, that was a lot of names. So if you've checked the Patreon recently, you'll see that we are mixing up the tiers. Mixing up is not the word I want to use. Updating. It makes it sound more random. Like, oh, they're everywhere. Who knows what they are going to be? So this list will probably change. Like I said, we're trying some things. So in the next couple of months, keep an eye out. See which one you want to be at. Right now, as of this writing, I have the highest one, which is you get to make a character for the show. We'll see how that one works out. I don't know if I'm going to get a bunch of submissions that are like, I want to be Poop Fart, the Goblin or something. So hopefully, people really want that, and we're going to make a good faith effort. There's also, the shout out pledge, like you heard. I'm going to try to get this into the main show with some experimentation. But I just read 200 names back to back to back to back, and I'm going to go lay down. My head hurts. I love you. Good night.